The Voluntary Empire had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. They had conquered 2,000 worlds across 3 galaxies. Their ships were massive and powerful. Their soldiers were trained from birth to fight and kill. Their technology was so advanced that most species could not even understand it. When they found a new world, they did not send diplomats. They did not ask questions. They simply attacked. This was their way. Strike first. Strike hard. Leave nothing standing. It had worked for 10,000 years. It would work again. Or so they believed. Their long-range sensors found humanity on a quiet morning. The data scrolled across Admiral Keth Oran's screen as he sat in his command chair aboard the flagship Void Hammer. He studied the information with his 4 eyes and let out a sound of amusement. A single star system, he said to his officers. Barely 40 warships. They've only just learned to travel between planets. He waved one of his 6 arms in dismissal. This will not even be a battle. It will be a harvest. The Imperial War Council agreed. Humanity was young. Humanity was weak. Humanity was nothing. Admiral Keth Oran gathered the first subjugation fleet. 12,000 warships. 3 million soldiers. Enough firepower to crack a planet in half. He jumped his fleet across the void of space and arrived in the Sol system on what humans called a Tuesday. On Earth, it was a normal day. People went to work. Children went to school. Lovers walked in parks. Old men played chess in the sunshine. No one looked up at the sky. No one knew that death was coming. Then the sky turned dark. 12,000 ships blocked out the sun. They hung above Earth like a ceiling of metal and hate. For a long moment, nothing happened. The world held its breath. Admiral Keth Oran opened the communication channel. His voice echoed across every radio, every television, every phone on the planet. People of Earth, he said, you are now subjects of the Voluntary Empire. You will surrender. You will serve. Or you will die. You have 1 hour to decide. Humanity's leaders tried to respond. They tried to talk. They tried to negotiate. They begged for time. They asked why. Admiral Keth Oran did not wait for 1 hour. He waited for 1 minute. Then he gave the order. Burn them! The first wave of fire fell on New York City. Plasma beams brighter than the sun cut through the skyline. Buildings that had stood for centuries turned to ash in seconds. The Statue of Liberty melted. Times Square became a crater. 3 million people died before they could even scream. Then Tokyo, then London, then Beijing, then Moscow, then Mumbai, then Cairo. City after city vanished in fire. Humanity's defense fleet scrambled to respond. 40 ships against 12,000. Captain Sarah Chun commanded the UN Defiance, the newest ship in the fleet. She watched her sensors fill with red dots. So many enemies. Too many enemies. All ships, engage. She shouted, "Buy Earth as much time as we can." The human fleet charged forward. They fired every weapon they had. Their missiles exploded against voluntary shields like raindrops against a mountain. Their plasma cannons barely scratched the enemy armor. One by one, the human ships died. Captain Chun watched the horizon explode. Then the starward. Then the new dawn. Her own ship shook as enemy fire tore through the hull. "Keep firing," she ordered. "Keep fighting." The Defiance lasted 7 minutes longer than any other ship. When it finally broke apart, Captain Chun's last words were broadcast to Earth. "Do not give up." Never give up? Then there was silence. On the ground, the horror continued. Voluntary soldiers descended in landing craft that blocked out the sky. They were tall creatures, nearly 3 meters high, with gray skin and 4 arms. Their weapons turned humans to dust with a single shot. They expected surrender. They expected fear. They expected humans to fall on their knees and beg for mercy. Some did, but not all. In the ruins of Chicago, a retired soldier named Marcus Webb pulled an old rifle from his closet. He had not fired it in 20 years. He fired it now. His first shot hit a Voluntary soldier in the eye. The alien fell dead. In the burning streets of São Paulo, a group of firefighters used their trucks to ram an enemy transport. They killed 17 aliens before they were cut down. In the mountains of Afghanistan, villagers who had fought invaders for generations welcomed new enemies with traps and ambush. Voluntary patrols entered those mountains. They did not come out. Across the world, the same story repeated. Humans did not surrender. Humans fought with guns, with knives, with rocks, with their bare hands. They fought even when there was no hope. They fought because fighting was all they had left. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Elena Vasquez stood in an underground bunker. She was 60 years old, with gray hair and hard eyes. She had served in 3 wars. She had seen death many times, but she had never seen anything like this. Around her stood the survivors of Earth's military command. Generals, admirals, commanders. Men and women covered in dust and blood. Their faces showed shock. Their eyes showed despair. The screens on the walls showed the death toll. It climbed higher every second. 1 billion. 2 billion. 4 billion. 7 billion. In just 6 hours, most of humanity had died. General Vasquez watched the numbers climb. She felt the weight of them. 7 billion souls. 7 billion lives ended in fire and blood. She should have felt despair. She should have given up. Anyone would have. But Elena Vasquez was not anyone. She turned to face her officers. When she spoke, her voice did not shake. It did not waver. It was cold and hard and certain. They wanted a war, she said. Now they have one. She pointed at the screens, showing the enemy forces. 12,000 ships. 3 million soldiers. Technology beyond human understanding. They think this is over, she continued. They think we are finished. They think we will break. She shook her head slowly. They are wrong. They do not know what they have awakened. She stepped forward, and her officers stood straighter. Hope flickered in their eyes. Not much, but enough. We will fight, General Vasquez said. We will bleed. We will die. But we will make them pay for every inch of ground. We will make them regret ever looking at our sky. And one day, when they have forgotten what safety feels like, we will come for them. She looked at each officer in turn. This is not the end of humanity. This is the beginning of our revenge. Outside, the world burned. Cities crumbled. Millions more died with each passing hour. But in that bunker, beneath the mountains, something was born. Something that the Voluntary Empire, in all their wisdom, had never expected. Hope. And hope, humanity would prove, was the most dangerous weapon of all. 3 years had passed since the invasion. The Voluntari expected to control Earth in 3 months. They were wrong. Admiral Keth Oren stood on the balcony of his command center in what used to be Washington, D.C. The city below was a mix of alien structures and human ruins. Voluntari flags flew from every building. Armed patrols walked the streets. Everything looked peaceful. It was a lie. Another convoy destroyed, his aide reported. Sector 7, 40 soldiers dead. No survivors. Catherine slammed his fist against the railing. How? We have sensors everywhere. We have patrols on every road. The humans came from underground, Admiral. They struck, and then they vanished. This was the story of the occupation. The Voluntari controlled the skies. They controlled the cities. They controlled the major roads. But they did not control the humans. Humanity had learned a terrible lesson in those first hours of invasion. They could not win an open battle. Their technology was too weak. Their numbers were too small. So they changed their strategy. They became ghosts. Commander Tyrell Jackson led a unit called the Ghost Wolves. Before the invasion, he had been a history teacher in Detroit. Now he was one of the most wanted humans on Earth. The Voluntari had put a price on his head, equal to the value of a warship. He was worth every credit. His unit operated in the ruins of the American Midwest. They never attacked the same place twice. They never used the same tactics twice. They struck supply convoys, communication centers, and isolated patrols. They killed quickly and quietly, then melted into the shadows. Tonight, they were hunting. Jackson lay flat on a destroyed overpass, watching a Voluntari supply convoy move along the old highway below. 20 vehicles, 60 soldiers, enough weapons and food to supply an entire occupation zone. "Charges ready," whispered Maria Santos, his second in command. She had been an engineer before the war. Now she built bombs. "Wait for the lead vehicle to hit the marker," Jackson replied. The convoy moved closer. The lead vehicle crossed a faded white line on the road. Now, the explosion tore the night apart. The first 3 vehicles flipped into the air. Before the aliens could react, Ghost Wolves opened fire from both sides of the highway. Plasma rifles, captured from dead enemies, cut through Voluntari armor. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it ended, 60 aliens lay dead. The humans took the weapons, the food, and the medical supplies. They left nothing behind but fire and bodies. By the time Voluntari reinforcements arrived, the Ghost Wolves had vanished into the underground tunnels that stretched beneath the old cities. Across the world, similar stories played out every night. In the forests of Russia, the winter shadows made occupation so costly that the Voluntari abandoned 3 entire regions. In the jungles of South America, the green serpents turned every tree into a threat. In the deserts of Africa, the sand ghosts struck with the fury of a storm and disappeared like morning mist. The Voluntari had conquered 2,000 worlds. On none of those worlds had they faced resistance like this. But the humans were not just fighting. They were learning. Dr. Yuki Tanaka had been a xenobiologist before the invasion. She studied alien life forms in a quiet laboratory in Kyoto. When the Voluntari came, they destroyed her laboratory. They killed her colleagues. They almost killed her. She survived. And she began to study a different kind of alien life. In a hidden bunker beneath Mount Fuji, she examined captured Voluntari technology. The aliens used neural implants to communicate with their equipment. These implants connected directly to their brains. I found a weakness. The implants use a specific frequency to send signals, she explained to General Vasquez over a secure channel. If we can broadcast on that frequency, we can interfere with their commands. Can you do more than interfere? Vasquez asked. I smiled. I can make their own soldiers turn against them. 3 weeks later, a Voluntari garrison in Northern Europe experienced what their commanders called mass malfunction. 200 soldiers suddenly attacked their own officers. They destroyed their own equipment. They opened the gates to let human resistance fighters inside. The Voluntari never understood what happened. They blamed faulty equipment. They blamed contaminated food. They never guessed that a human scientist had turned their greatest advantage into their greatest weakness. Meanwhile, far from Earth, something else was happening. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, humanity was building. When the invasion began, thousands of humans were working in space. Miners on asteroids, engineers on space stations, colonists on Mars. The Voluntari focused on Earth and ignored these scattered survivors. That was a mistake. Admiral James Okonkwo had commanded a small mining fleet before the war. Now he commanded humanity's hope. In hollowed-out asteroids and hidden stations, his people worked day and night. They studied captured Voluntari ships. They took them apart piece by piece. They learned how they worked. Then they made them better. The alien engines are powerful but wasteful, reported Chief Engineer Hassan Ali. We can improve efficiency by 30%. Their weapons are designed for large targets, added Weapons Officer Nina Volkov. We can modify them for precision strikes. Their armor is strong against plasma, said Material Specialist Kenji Mori. But we have found a frequency of laser that cuts through it like paper. Ship by ship, weapon by weapon, the secret fleet grew. They called the project Phoenix. Like the bird of legend, humanity would rise from its ashes. On Earth, the resistance continued to bleed the occupation. Every dead alien was a victory. Every destroyed convoy was a step toward freedom. Every act of defiance kept hope alive. But hope alone would not win the war. General Vasquez understood this. She coordinated resistance efforts across the globe from bunkers that moved every few weeks. She gathered intelligence. She studied the enemy. She planned. They are stronger than us, she told her commanders. They have more ships, more soldiers, more technology. We cannot beat them with what we have. She pulled up images of the Phoenix fleet, still under construction in the asteroid belt. So we will build something new. Something they have never seen. Something that will make them afraid. Commander Jackson, attending the meeting via secure transmission, asked the question on everyone's mind. How long? 2 more years, Vasquez replied. We need 2 more years. Jackson nodded slowly. Then we hold for 2 more years. Whatever it takes. It would take everything they had. The next 2 years were the hardest in human history. The Voluntari, frustrated by endless resistance, became more brutal. They burned entire regions. They executed prisoners. They tried to break humanity's spirit with cruelty and fear. It did not work. For every human who fell, another took their place. Sons followed fathers into battle. Daughters followed mothers. Old soldiers taught young fighters. The flame of resistance passed from hand to hand, growing stronger with each passing day. Admiral Keth Oren sent report after report to the Imperial Council. These creatures do not understand defeat, he wrote. They fight when they cannot win. They die, and still they fight. I have never seen anything like this. The Council told him to be patient. The Council told him that the humans would eventually break. The Council was wrong. In the darkness of space, the Phoenix fleet neared completion. 200 ships, built with human hands and human rage. Each one carried weapons designed to kill Voluntari. Each one carried crews who had lost everything and feared nothing. On Earth, resistance fighters counted the days. They knew help was coming. They just had to survive long enough to see it, and humanity was very, very goo. Dr. Marcus Chun had not seen sunlight in 5 years. His laboratory was buried deep beneath the ruins of Shanghai. Above him, Voluntari patrols walked streets that had once belonged to his people. Around him, machines hummed and screens glowed with complex equations. He had not slept in 3 days. He did not care. He was close. So close. The Voluntari ships could travel faster than light. They bent space itself, creating shortcuts across the universe. Human scientists had studied this technology for years. They understood how it worked. They could copy it. But Marcus Chen did not want to copy it. He wanted to make it better. Run the simulation again, he told his assistant, Dr. Li Wei. The computer processed the data. Numbers scrolled across the screen. Marcus watched them with tired eyes that still burned with determination. The simulation completed. A green light flashed. Marcus stared at the screen. His hands began to shake. After 5 years of failure, after thousands of attempts, after endless nights of doubt and despair, he had done it. "It works," he whispered. Then louder, "It works." He called it the fold engine. The voluntary drives created one large jump across space. His engine could create many small jumps. A ship with a fold engine could appear anywhere within a star system, strike, and vanish before the enemy could respond. It changed everything. General Vasquez received the news in her mountain bunker. For the first time in years, she smiled. "How soon can we install these engines in our ships?" She asked Admiral Okonkwo over the secure channel. 3 months, he replied. "But we should wait for more ships." "We only have 200. No." Vasquez shook her head. "We have waited long enough. The resistance is bleeding. Our people are dying. We strike now." She pulled up a map of the solar system. Her finger pointed to Mars. "The Voluntari have their largest garrison in the system at Olympus Mons. 3,000 soldiers. 200 ships. If we destroy it, we cut their supply lines to Earth." Admiral Okonkwo studied the map. "It will be a hard fight. We will lose ships. We will lose more if we wait." Vasquez met his eyes through the screen. "It is time to show them what humanity can do." The preparation took exactly 3 months. Engineers worked without rest, installing fold engines in every ship of the Phoenix fleet. Pilots trained in simulators, learning to fight with their new advantage. Soldiers prepared for battle they had dreamed of for 5 years. Commander Tyrell Jackson arrived at the fleet headquarters in the asteroid belt. He had left Earth on a stolen voluntary shuttle, bringing with him the best fighters from resistance units around the world. The Ghost Wolves would ride again, but this time they would ride in starships. "Never thought I would see space," Maria Santos said, looking out a viewport at the stars. "Never thought we would get a chance to hit back," Jackson replied. "Really hit back." The flagship of the Phoenix fleet was called the UN Retribution. It was the largest ship humans had ever built. Its hull was made from captured Voluntari armor, improved with human engineering. Its weapons combined alien technology with human innovation. Its crew numbered 3,000, every one of them a volunteer who had lost family in the invasion. Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge as the fleet prepared to move. 200 ships formed up around the Retribution. Small compared to the 12,000 that had invaded Earth. But these ships were different. These ships carried 5 years of human rage. "All ships report ready," the communications officer announced. Okonkwo took a deep breath. "Send the signal." "We jump in 60 seconds. Across the fleet, crews braced themselves. Some prayed. Some checked their weapons one final time. Some simply thought of everyone they had lost. "Jump in 10 seconds, the helm officer counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The stars blurred. Space folded around the fleet. For a brief moment, they existed nowhere and everywhere at once. Then they were at Mars. The Voluntari garrison had no warning. One moment, their sensors showed empty space. The next moment, 200 human warships appeared out of nothing, already firing. Commander Vethkal, the garrison commander, barely had time to reach his command center before the first explosion shook the station. Alarms screamed. Screens flickered with damage reports. Officers shouted in confusion and fear. Where did they come from? Vethkal demanded. How did they get past our sensors? No one had an answer. The human fleet struck like a storm of fire and metal. The Retribution led the charge, its main guns tearing through voluntary ships before they could even raise shields. Smaller human vessels used their fold engines to jump behind enemy lines, attacking from impossible angles. The voluntary tried to fight back. They were experienced warriors. They had won countless battles across the galaxy. But they had never faced an enemy that could be everywhere at once. Captain Derek Stone commanded the Vengeance, a fast attack ship. His fold engine jumped him behind a voluntary cruiser. He fired all weapons into the enemy's unshielded engines. The cruiser exploded. Before the debris could scatter, he jumped again, appearing beside another target. "Got another one," his weapons officer shouted. "Find the next," Stone replied. "Keep moving. Never stop." Across the battlefield, the same scene repeated. Human ships jumped, fired, jumped again. The voluntary could not track them, could not predict them, could not stop them. Commander Vethkal watched his fleet die. Ship after ship disappeared from his screens. The 200 enemy vessels seemed like 2,000, appearing and vanishing like ghosts. "Fall back," he ordered. "All ships, retreat to the station." It was too late. Admiral Okonkwo had anticipated this move. A wing of human ships jumped directly above the voluntary space station, cutting off the retreat. The remaining enemy vessels were caught between two forces. The battle lasted 80 minutes. When it ended, every voluntary ship at Mars was destroyed. The space station was captured. 3,000 alien soldiers surrendered, the first mass surrender in the history of the Empire. Human losses were 37 ships and 2,000 lives. Heavy, but far less than anyone had expected. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Resistance fighters who had spent years hiding and running suddenly stood taller. The impossible had happened. Humanity had won a battle. In his command center, Admiral Keth Oren received the report from Mars. His 4 eyes widened with shock. His 6 arms trembled with something he had never felt before. "Fear. They have new technology," his aide explained. "Ships that can jump within a system. We have never seen anything like it." Keth Oren said nothing. He was remembering his own words from 5 years ago. This will not even be a battle. It will be a harvest. He had been a fool. General Vasquez broadcast a message to all human forces, both on Earth and in space. Her face appeared on hidden screens in bunkers across the world. Her voice reached every resistance fighter, every soldier, every survivor. "For 5 years we bled," she said. "For 5 years we buried our dead. They called us primitive. They called us weak. They thought they had broken us." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice rang with pride. "Today, we reminded them what humanity truly is. We are not victims. We are not slaves. We are fighters. And this is only the beginning." She raised her fist. "The Phoenix has risen. The war for our future starts now." Across Earth, humans heard her words and felt something they had almost forgotten. Hope. Real hope. Not the desperate hope of survival, but the fierce hope of victory. In their ships above Mars, the crew of the Phoenix fleet celebrated their victory. But Admiral Okonkwo knew this was just the first step. Mars was one system. The voluntary empire spanned thousands. He looked at the stars through his viewport. Somewhere out there, the enemy was gathering their strength. Somewhere out there, the true battle was waiting. "Enjoy this moment," he told his crew. "Remember this feeling. Because tomorrow, we take the fight to them." The hunters had become the hunted. And humanity was just getting started. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. For 10,000 years, the voluntary empire had expanded. They conquered. They enslaved. They destroyed. No species had ever pushed them back. No species had ever made them afraid. Until now. Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the stars stream past as his fleet jumped toward their next target. 6 months had passed since the victory at Mars. In that time, the human fleet had grown to 500 ships. More importantly, they had learned how to fight a war across the stars. Approaching Keth Prime, the navigation officer reported. Enemy shipyards in range. Keth Prime was the heart of Valentari military production. 60% of their warships were built in its massive orbital facilities. Destroying it would cripple the Empire's ability to replace losses. How many defenders? Okonkwo asked. 800 ships. Heavy fortifications around the shipyards. Commander Jackson, now leading the fleet's assault wing, spoke from his own ship. We have faced worse odds. It was true. Over the past months, the human fleet had attacked dozens of targets across Valentari space. They had won battles they should have lost. They had destroyed installations that should have been untouchable. The fold engine gave them an advantage no enemy could match. But this battle would be different. The Empire had learned to fear humanity. They had gathered their strength at Keth Prime. All ships, Okonkwo announced over the fleet channel. This is the largest military target in the Empire. If we destroy it, we break their back. They will never recover. He paused, looking at the tactical display. 800 enemy ships waited for them. The odds were still against humanity. Many of us will die today, he continued. But our deaths will mean something. Our children will live free. Our species will survive. That is worth any price. The fleet responded with a single word, spoken by 500 crews. Victory. The Battle of Keth Prime was the largest space engagement in galactic history. Human ships emerged from fold space in waves, striking from multiple directions at once. The Valentari had prepared for a direct assault. They had not prepared for enemies that could appear behind their defensive lines, inside their formations, everywhere at once. Captain Maria Santos, now commanding the strike cruiser Ghostwolf, led an attack on the main shipyard. Her squadron jumped past the defensive fleet, appearing directly above the massive orbital facility. All weapons fire, she ordered. Plasma beams and missiles tore into the shipyard. Sections of the structure exploded. Ships still under construction broke apart in their docks. The Valentari had spent centuries building this facility. Santos destroyed a quarter of it in 3 minutes. But the enemy fought back. Valentari ships were not as advanced as human vessels, but they were still deadly. Their commanders were experienced. They adapted quickly, forming defensive clusters that covered each other. The Wen Steadfast was caught between 2 enemy cruisers. Captain Chan Wei tried to jump away, but a lucky shot damaged his fold engine. His ship exploded, taking 800 human lives with it. The Starfire rammed an enemy battleship to save a transport full of wounded soldiers. The Iron Will held a choke point against 20 enemy ships until reinforcements arrived. Its crew fought until their weapons ran dry, then fought with emergency tools and bare hands. Humanity paid for victory in blood, but they won. After 6 hours of brutal combat, the Valentari fleet broke. Ships that had fought for the Empire for centuries fled in panic. The shipyards burned, their fire visible from the planet below. Admiral Okonkwo looked at the casualty reports. 112 ships lost. Nearly 40,000 humans dead. Was it worth it? His aide asked quietly. Okonkwo pointed at the burning shipyards. The Empire lost 60% of their production capacity. They cannot replace what we destroyed. Every battle from now on, they will have fewer ships. We broke them today. He closed his eyes, thinking of the dead. It was worth it. News of the victory spread beyond human space. Across the galaxy, enslaved species heard whispers of the impossible. A young species had defeated the Valentari. A species that had been attacked and nearly destroyed had risen to challenge the masters of the galaxy. Hope is a dangerous thing. The Tavani had served the Empire for 3,000 years. They were engineers, forced to build the ships that conquered their people. They had no weapons. They had no army. They had nothing but their skills and their chains. Elder Korvax gathered his people in the deepest tunnels of their home world. His voice was old and tired, but his words carried fire. "We have heard the stories," he said. "The humans fight. The humans win. If they can resist, so can we." The Tovani rebellion began with small acts. A ship's engine that failed at a critical moment. A weapons system that misfired. A navigation computer that sent a patrol into an asteroid field. Nothing obvious. Nothing that could be traced. But every failure cost the Empire soldiers and ships. On Myrveth, the telepathic Mirathi had been slaves for longer than any species could remember. The Valentari used them to detect lies, to interrogate prisoners, to spy on their own officers. They were kept in chains, their minds violated daily. When the human fleet arrived in their system to liberate a prison camp, the Mirathi made a choice. They turned their telepathy against their masters, flooding Valentari minds with fear and confusion. Soldiers dropped their weapons. Officers gave contradictory orders. The defense collapsed in minutes. After the battle, Admiral Okonko met with the Mirathi survivors. Their leader, a fragile being named Whisper, spoke through thoughts rather than words. "We have seen your minds," Whisper said. "You carry great pain, great rage, but also great hope. We will fight beside you." The alliance grew. Species after species joined humanity's cause. Some brought ships. Some brought soldiers. Some brought intelligence gathered over centuries of slavery. All brought hatred for the Empire that had crushed them. The Valentari Empire began to fracture. On Valantos Prime, the Imperial Throne World, Empress Velsarith watched her empire crumble. Reports of defeats arrived daily. Entire fleets vanished. Colony worlds fell to rebellion. Trade routes collapsed. How? She demanded of her advisors. How has one primitive species done this? Her chief strategist, Lord Kethvareth, studied the tactical reports. "They are not like other species, Majesty. When we conquered others, they surrendered. They accepted their fate. The humans..." He paused, searching for words. "The humans refuse to accept defeat. They fight when they cannot win. They die and others take their place. They do not know how to give up." "Then teach them," the Empress commanded. "We have tried, Majesty. We destroyed their cities. We killed their people. We burned their world. It only made them angrier. It only made them stronger." The Empress sat in silence. For the first time in her long reign, she did not know what to do. Meanwhile, the human fleet continued to advance. Planet after planet fell. System after system was liberated. The Phoenix fleet, once 200 ships, had grown to 3,000. Many were captured enemy vessels, turned against their former masters. Others were gifts from allied species. General Vasquez had left Earth months ago, traveling with the fleet as overall commander of human forces. She stood beside Admiral Okonko as they approached the border of the Empire's core territory. "One more push," she said. "Their homeworld is within reach. They will fight to the last," Okonko warned. "They have gathered everything they have left for the final defense." "Good." Vasquez's eyes were hard. "I want them to fight. I want them to know what it feels like to face extinction. I want them to understand what they did to us." She looked at the stars, thinking of Earth, thinking of the billions who had died, thinking of the resistance fighters who had bled for 5 years, thinking of everyone who had sacrificed everything for this moment. "We finished this," she said. "For everyone we lost. for everyone who survived. We finished this war. The final battle was coming, and humanity was ready. The sky above Valanthos Prime burned with the fire of dying ships. The combined fleet of humanity and their allies numbered 3,000 vessels. Ships from a dozen species flew alongside human warships. Former slaves fought beside their liberators. The oppressed had risen, and they had come to the heart of the Empire. Empress Valsereth watched from the bridge of her flagship, the Eternal Dominion. It was the largest warship ever built, a mountain of metal and weapons that had never known defeat. Around it gathered the last fleet of the Valanthari Empire. 2,000 ships, crewed by soldiers who knew they were fighting for survival. "They dare attack our homeworld," the Empress said. Her voice was cold and sharp. "They will learn the price of such arrogance." "Majesty," her admiral said carefully, "perhaps we should consider negotiation. The war has cost us greatly. If we offer terms, no." The Empress cut him off. "The Valanthari do not surrender. We do not negotiate. We conquer or we die. There is no other way." She raised her hand. "All ships, attack." The Battle of Valanthos Prime was the final act of a war that had changed the galaxy forever. Admiral Okonkwo commanded the Allied fleet from the Retribution. General Vasquez stood beside him, watching the tactical display fill with thousands of moving dots. So many ships. So many lives. Everything came down to this. "The enemy is advancing," the tactical officer reported. "They are forming a spearhead around the Empress's flagship. They want to break through our center," Okonkwo observed. "Classic Valanthari tactics. Overwhelming force at a single point." Vasquez shook her head. "They still don't understand us. They still think we fight like they do." She opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, execute Pattern Omega. Show them what humanity has learned." The Allied fleet scattered. To Valanthari sensors, it looked like chaos. Ships flew in every direction, breaking formation, abandoning positions. The enemy commander laughed. "They flee before us. Press the attack." He did not understand until it was too late. The scattered human ships were not fleeing. They were surrounding. Using their fold engines, they jumped to positions all around the Valanthari fleet. In seconds, the hunters became the hunted. Commander Jackson, commanding the assault wing from the Freedom's Call, led the first strike. His ships appeared behind the enemy formation, hitting their unshielded engines. "All units weapons free," he shouted. "Make them pay." The battle exploded across 1,000,000 kilometers of space. Ships dueled between the stars. Plasma beams lit the darkness. Missiles streaked toward targets. Explosions blossomed like flowers of fire. Men and women and beings from a dozen species died in the cold silence of space. The Valanthari fought with the desperation of the doomed. They knew this was their last stand. They knew that defeat meant the end of everything their empire had built. They threw themselves at the enemy with savage fury. But humanity had learned war from the best teacher, survival. Captain Maria Santos led her squadron against a group of enemy cruisers protecting the Imperial flagship. Her ship shook as enemy fire struck the hull. Alarms screamed. Damage reports flooded her screens. Forward shields failing. Her officer shouted. "Keep firing," Santos ordered. "We do not stop until they break." Her ship killed 3 enemy cruisers before its weapons overheated. She ran the 4th, crippling it. Her crew abandoned ship seconds before the reactor exploded. They were picked up by Allied vessels and continued fighting from new ships. That was how humanity fought. They did not stop. They did not surrender. When one ship died, they found another. When one soldier fell, another took their place. They had learned this lesson in the ruins of Earth, and they had not forgotten. The battle raged for 6 days. On the 7th day, the tide turned. The Allied fleet had surrounded the Eternal Dominion. The Empress's flagship fought like a wounded beast, destroying any ship that came close. Its weapons were massive, its shields strong. Dozens of Allied ships died trying to breach its defenses. Admiral Okonkwo studied the tactical display. His fleet was winning, but slowly. Too slowly. Every hour, more humans died. More ships were lost. The Eternal Dominion had to be destroyed. One direct hit to the bridge would end this, his tactical officer said. But nothing can get through those shields. Commander Jackson's voice came over the comm channel. His ship, the Freedom's Call, was badly damaged. Half his crew was dead. His weapons were nearly depleted. "I can get through," he said quietly. Okonkwo understood immediately. "Tyrell, no? There has to be another way." "There isn't." Jackson's voice was calm. "My fold engine still works. One jump, directly into their bridge. It will end this war." General Vasquez stepped forward. She had known Jackson since the Resistance days. She had watched him grow from a history teacher into one of humanity's greatest warriors. "You don't have to do this," she said. "Yes, I do." Jackson smiled, though no one could see it. "I spent 5 years in those tunnels, watching my people die. I dreamed of this moment. The chance to end it. The chance to make sure no one else has to suffer what we suffered." He paused. "Tell them I died well. Tell them I died free." Before anyone could stop him, the Freedom's Call activated its fold engine. The ship vanished from space. For a fraction of a second, it existed nowhere. Then it reappeared inside the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface. The greatest ship in Voluntary history broke apart. Fire consumed its decks. Its weapons fell silent. The Empress, who had ruled for 200 years, died in an instant. With her died the last hope of the Empire. The remaining Voluntary ships stopped fighting. Without their Empress, without their flagship, they had nothing left. Surrender signals flickered across the battlefield. The war was over. Admiral Okonkwo broadcast a message to all ships. His voice was heavy with grief and pride. Commander Tyrell Jackson gave his life to end this war. Remember his name. Remember his sacrifice. He represents the best of us. The courage that brought us here. The determination that kept us fighting. The love that made us strong. He paused. The war is over. We won. For everyone we lost, we won. Across the fleet, humans wept. They wept for Jackson. They wept for the millions who had died. They wept for the worlds that had burned. They wept because it was finally over. 1 week later, General Elena Vasquez stood on the steps of the Imperial Palace on Volantos Prime. The building that had ruled 1,000 worlds now flew the flag of the United Earth, Confederation. Around her stood soldiers from every species that had fought in the Alliance. She looked up at the alien sky. Strange stars shone overhead. She was so far from home. So far from the bunker where she had sworn revenge 7 years ago. The journey had been long and painful, but they had made it. Cameras broadcast her image across the galaxy. Billions watched. Humans on Earth, still rebuilding from the invasion. Freed slaves on 100 worlds. Even Voluntary survivors, wondering what would become of them. Vasquez spoke. 7 years ago, they attacked us. They burned our cities. They killed our people. They tried to destroy everything we were, everything we could become. Her voice carried across space. They failed. She looked at the soldiers around her. Human, Tervani, Mirathi, and a dozen other species. We did not fight alone. We found allies who shared our dream of freedom. We found friends who stood beside us when the darkness seemed endless. Together, we proved that no empire is unbreakable. No tyranny lasts forever. She raised her fist. Let this be a lesson to anyone who would threaten the innocent, to anyone who would conquer and enslave. We did not start this war, but we finished it. We will always finish it. In the centuries that followed, the United Earth Confederation became the heart of a new galactic community. The coalition that had fought the Empire transformed into a government built on freedom and cooperation. Humans worked alongside former enemies and old allies to build something better than what had come before. The Voluntari were not destroyed. They were given a chance to change, to learn a different way. Many took that chance. Former conquerors became partners in a galaxy that no longer knew masters and slaves. On Earth, cities rose from the ruins. Children played in parks where their grandparents had died. Life continued, scarred but hopeful. Monuments stood in every city, honoring those who had fallen. Commander Tyrell Jackson's name was carved in stone and steel and memory. And across the stars, beings of every species told stories of humanity. They spoke of a people who had been attacked, nearly destroyed, and had risen to reshape the galaxy itself. They spoke of courage in the darkness, of hope when there was none, of a species that simply refused to die. The stories spread across generations. They became legends, and the legends carried a warning to any who might forget. Never attack humanity first, because humanity will always finish the war.